Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this episode of Just Another Year Chicago. My name is Nick Roti. I'm joined alongside my co-host, London Beth, and today we are hitting on Billy Donovan's choice to bench Wendell Carter Jr. and Kobe White in last games against the Toronto Raptors. Before we begin that, we have a lot to go over with the Bulls as a whole. The Bulls have dropped 3 out of the last 5 games, losing a close one to the surging Nuggets, getting destroyed by the 76ers without their starters, and also losing to a beaten up Miami Heat. London, I know you're a very passionate Bulls fan. Run me through everything about what's going on with the Bulls right now, how this team is super inconsistent. They'll be red hot for a week, cold for another week. Let's hear your thoughts.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. The Bulls right now are killing me. Last night, we go up against the Raptors. It's a close game for about 3 quarters. We pull away. And you know what? If this was any other night, there wouldn't be that big of news. Beat the Raptors. You know, I think we're an equivalent team to the Raptors since they lost Kawhi Leonard and such. But the bigger news and the reason why it's a relevant game is because Billy Donovan comes in, all right, and just straight godfathers the entire starting lineup, all right? Please, everybody, check the clip art or whatever we have for the YouTube. He absolutely just godfathered it. He chose to bench Kobe White and Wendell Carter Jr., having them come off the bench. And honestly, it was a great choice. I think that coaches who do this and coaches that have the ability to see the flaws in maybe the lineups and how players are playing and how they're playing together is what makes Billy Donovan a top tier head coach. Other coaches would have just rode with the best players, hoped that, you know, something would start to gel. And like we've talked about in prior podcasts and stuff about, you know, Kobe White and Wendell Carter and the different kinds of things they do. Kobe's been slacking, you know what I mean? And Wendell can't really stay healthy. Sure. Yeah, and it can't really stay healthy. So I'm really excited to talk about it. I do want to pose a question before we go into the depths of the game and everything is, can you just absolutely believe we lose by 2 points to the Nuggets, who are absolutely dominating right now? Yep. We get destroyed by the 76ers without their starters. And I know, like you just said that, we dropped 3 of our last 5, like you just stated. What do you think going forward? We have a little bit easier of a schedule. What do you think we can expect, like against the Thunder coming up here?
So I think that, Billy Donovan, obviously, he's a young team's coach. He likes to develop players. He doesn't, sure, I mean, you give him a couple seasoned veterans like, you know, Adams, Paul, you know, he did good things with that Thunder team last year, even though no one was really expecting because they weren't sure. You know, you lose a guy like Kevin Durant, you lose Russell Westbrook, who were your franchise players forever, more Russell Westbrook than Durant. But I think that Billy Donovan has complete control of this team. And that's something that Jim Boylan was really missing. I mean, think about it. This is almost the exact team that Boylan had, and it's performing at almost a 500 record, still learning the game, one of the youngest teams in the league. And you're telling your guys that have high expectations on them. You know, Wendell Carter Jr., you know, was a top, I believe he was the 7th overall pick a couple years ago, or was he the 4? He was 4 or 7. I know Kobe was 4, right?
Kobe was 4.
Kobe was 4, but you have 2 top 10 guys, and then you have Markkanen. So you have 3 top 10 guys in your lineup, and they're not performing. And you need to sit down and be like, hey, I don't care if I hurt your feelings. Kind of like back in high school where like coaches did what they had to do to win games. And that's something that I believe the NBA has really gotten away from. You know, player coaches, you know, it's happening like that. Billy Donovan has complete control over this lineup, and he's doing a really good job at it. And I think that it was a great move for the Bulls. Sure, the Raptors are not the team that they were 2 years ago. They're not. And the Miami Heat are not the team that they were last year during COVID basketball. They're banged up. You know, whenever you have a guy named Jimmy Butler in your lineup, you know, you're going to be a good team. It's kind of like Kawhi Leonard. Like Kawhi Leonard literally led the Raptors to the championship. But then you go and lose to the 76ers at home after being rested with none of their starters. Complete disaster. You can't have that happen. And that was kind of like the kick in the gut that people were like, the Bulls were like, I need to take control of this team. Billy Donovan did a great job at that.
Yeah. And I know you brought up before we started the podcast and stuff that the Bulls are going to have been having internal meetings.
Yep.
You need to have them And I think this was, like you said, I think this was Billy Donovan's first step. I think he said, listen, this isn't working. We're losing to teams and games that we shouldn't be losing. We're in contention to make a playoff spot. Something needs to change.
Yep.
And going into that, I think we saw the first steps of that with this Raptors game. We had Ryan, I think was the only, Ryan, shout out for his man bun, was the only person that touched the court that didn't score. Okay. I think that was phenomenal. And didn't score double digit points. Everybody else, maybe one other person touched the court that didn't score. But that was really, really strong. Patrick Williams went completely off. I think, and this will be my big take for the day, is I think we need to, after last night's game, Zach LaVine is our absolute star and takes a lot of pressure away from all the other players on our team. And I understand that. Patrick Williams at 19 years old is who you build around. It really is. It's who you build around. The Raptors, even like I said, they don't have Kawhi Leonard. They don't have the team they had when they won the championship. They still have a very strong team. They still have depth. They still are very good at defense and usually keep teams under 100 points throughout the season so far. And Patrick Williams absolutely dismantled them. He looked like the best player on the court at, again, 19 years old. That was really big for me. I'm happy to see, Laurie back. I'm a huge Laurie Marketing fan, even though, like I said, I don't think he can stay healthy. But the problem is what is going to come of this? What's going to happen now with Kobe White? What's going to happen with Wendell Carter Jr.? Wendell Carter Jr. was a big, and I know we've talked about this, was a big, big person that was talked about that the Chicago Bulls would move. And, Nick, like you stated before, trade deadline's coming up. What's going to happen there? Is Wendell Carter, now that they see maybe when he doesn't start, we don't exactly need him to have, these successful games against, competent teams, it really begs the question there. It really, really starts to beg the question. I want to see what you thought of a little bit about the game, but especially with Patrick Williams. Just what did you see? What did you think about that 23-point performance, shooting like 9 for 14 from the field? Did really, really well at the free throw line, got to the free throw line a good amount of times, which was really, really strong. And also had like six rebounds, 4 assists, a steal, a block. I mean, he was everywhere.
He was doing everything he had to do. And like you said, London, 19 years old, super impressive. He's on his way to be a superstar. I mean, when you have guys like LeBron James saying that kid's got potential, it's not just something to say it for the media. That is something to say. And Patrick Williams' confidence has continuously grown over this entire season. His first game, he scored double digits. That's, you come out, you're not like Derrick Rose. I believe in Derrick Rose's first game, he only scored 11 or 12 points. It takes time to develop these superstars. And in a league that has become very 3-point heavy, these rookies come out and they shoot threes from half court. And then all of a sudden, people are saying that Trae Young is better than MVP Derrick Rose right now. Okay. I'm going back to Patrick Williams in a second, but players develop differently. Players have different roles. Patrick Williams' role for the Bulls is to be a guy that goes in the paint, but can also score from the outside, can take on bigger defenders because he's lanky and he's young. He is 19 years old. He's already, bulkier than Ingram. I mean, look at Ingram. The guy is, this big. And Patrick Williams got a lot of muscle on him for a young guy. Give him 2 more years, he's going to be a monster in this league. Nothing made me happier than seeing him do well in every category that a forward should do well in. But also, now, like we've kind of talked about this before, you're taking that pressure off of Zach LaVine. You're taking that pressure off Thad Young, letting our pure scorers actually score the ball. And, it's kind of making Wendell Carter Jr. and Larry Marketing and Kobe White look bad because those are also very similar picks, had the same exact expectations. And this guy is coming in who was a 6-man in college. Let's just keep that clear. He came off the bench in college, true freshman, and was drafted in the same status as them. Kobe White, it's a very common thing to have a sophomore slump. Great guy. I love Kobe White. But, mentally, you got to clear your head a little bit and be like, okay, the pressure now is getting taken off me. It used to be Zach and Kobe. Now suddenly it's Thad Young, Patrick Williams, and Zach LaVine. But the thing is that also it's only one game. And that's kind of like my ordeal that I don't want to get like overexcited. the consistency's been there with Patrick Williams. This was probably his second big game. This is his best game, but second big game. I need to see this more. I need to see, three or four more times over the next month, like a big 20-point, 6 rebound, 5 assist game from Patrick Williams. And who knows? I mean, that guy could be first NBA rookie team. I really think he could this year. I mean, there's a lot of good rookies out there this year, but he is like the sleeping giant of rookies right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree with you. I 100% agree with you. And I can't, again, to kind of close this point, I don't want to jump to those conclusions either.
Yep.
Tomorrow night we got a game against the Thunder that we should win. The Thunder have either traded some of their young assets, half of them are injured. I think we're coming out at, if I read this right, we're coming out as like a 4.5 favorite. I would hammer that. I expect us to win this game. We are the better team. And if we come out with this lineup again and we see another commanding dominant win, we see Patrick Williams again playing that kind of forward role, and we don't have to just rely on Zach LaVine dropping 40 points for us to win. Then maybe after we beat a decent team, beat another decent team, beat a lower average team, then I can really, not to, no shot to the Thunder or whatever, but I would really then start to get a little bit more excited. I honestly would.
I think that the Bulls are missing, though, is that big dude. They're just missing a big dude on the court. You can't have, and the thing is that I agree, like you throw this lineup out there again, they win another game, they win another 2 or 3 games. But teams are going to be like, all right, let's just throw our biggest lineup out there because they're not going to be able to do anything. They might be faster, but we can block their shots. We can guard the lane better than them. And when you have guys like Joel Embiid, standing in the middle, you got Thad Young on him. It's not going to work. You put Markkanen on him, you have a better shot, but Markkanen has a chance of getting hurt. And we need to go out and get a guy. And I know you kind of hit on this earlier. What do we do at the deadline? The Bulls are having internal conversations with Billy Donovan involved, which I think is so much healthier than, Gar Forman and Pax just like going, we're just going to go out and, you do what you got to do. Because that's what great coaches do. Great coaches also build a culture and they build around their system. And as a general manager, you guys should all be on the same page. And I think that that's what the Bulls are doing. I don't know if we were talking about this before. The Pistons, not the Pistons, the Cavaliers only are saying they want a second-round pick for Andre Drummond. They just want to get rid of him. They want that cap off. It would be gone anyway. They're not competing for anything, but they want him out of that locker room. Great. The Bulls are obviously a hot target for it because we're in need of a guy like him. But how can the Bulls take on $27 million in cap? No, we'd have to send Otto Porter over there. We'd have to send someone else over there. I think that we could get it done. I say throw Otto Porter Jr. in a second round pick in there. Get one of the better centers in the league who's rested up, ready to go. The Bulls need that help. And this lineup now is good for speed. You have this lineup in at certain points in the game, but it's not going to last you the whole time. You need to have true big men out there. And I think that's what the Bulls are missing.
I agree. And even to further your point about having big men, this Friday, 8:00 p.m., we're going to be going back against the Denver Nuggets, who they got some big guys. They got Jokic. Yeah. They play primarily in the paint. And so that will be the telltale sign of how this lineup does against a team with some big guys, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that the Bulls do have an opportunity to land someone at the deadline. They're an attractive place to come. That's why the All-Star game is so beneficial because, you saw Zach LaVine chopping it up with half these guys out there and, smiling, laughing. Zion Williamson and him were literally having a laugh and like interviewing each other. That's the culture that you need to start to build. Those guys definitely didn't know each other that well before. You don't see like a lot of these Bulls players on like big name players, social media, like hanging out during the summer and like shooting, like, chopping it up, whatever. I think that that's what the Bulls really needed was Zach to get to the All-Star game to finally start like saying, hey, we got something cooking over here in Chicago. We're a couple games out of 500, one player in. The Bulls have a great bench. Don't get me wrong. The Bulls have one of the better benches in the league, in my opinion. But that's the thing is that the whole roster is bench players. You trade half your bench, some of your starters most teams would be bench players, and I think that's what the Bulls are missing. They're missing like a superstar caliber player that allows bench players to be bench players and allows the starters to be starters. And that's something that the Bulls do need if they're going to see success in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. And like I said, these next couple games with this new lineup and then the trade deadline coming up are going to be vitally important. And I hope tomorrow night, Patrick Williams drops another 20 bomb. Honestly, I hope it just starts to snowball.
Yeah.
That's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, I hope so too. I mean, it builds his confidence moving forward. I mean, Kobe White had an awesome second half last year before COVID hit. I mean, look at the numbers. He had 26 points, 9 assists. You know, once you get hot, like you just got to find a way to stay hot. And I think that's what Kobe White lost. But if Patrick Williams could do it again and again and again, I don't know. I mean, the Bulls could be a very scary team.
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your London score prediction for tonight?
For tomorrow night?
For tomorrow night.
Score prediction, I'm going Bulls 116. And then they're going to hold the Thunder to 96. I'm going 116-96.
So you're expecting a big win by the Bulls?
I'm expecting a huge win. I think this lineup stays in. I think we dominate. I don't think we have to worry about a big man from the Thunder. I think they're just kind of in a complete rebuild. And I mean, outside of that guard Shea, I don't see anybody that they really have. So I'm expecting a big win.
Yeah, no, I agree. I got the Bulls in at 110-95. I think it's going to be 15 points, 20 points, tomato, it's a big difference, right? And I think that the Bulls are on their way to getting, like, they need these big blowout wins because they've given up giant leads before and lost games. Again, we talked about this before the All-Star break. The Bulls could have been the number 3 seed if they would have won half of their losses, because half those losses came in the last 2 minutes. So, super exciting time for it to be, again, it's still exciting to be a Bulls fan right now, but you got to deal with, okay, we are really in a rebuild. There is a direction for this team. We have a head coach for it. One more year, just another year. So, London, anything else before we wrap up?
No, just excited. And I think that after last night really showed Billy Donovan pulled the Godfather move, took this team in his hands and said, listen, I know what we have. I know what we can do. And the big things to come. I would say if we keep, with Billy Donovan as head coach, we can really pull, hopefully from free agency and stuff, some bigger names. And, the arrow is definitely pointing up in Chicago.
Yeah, I agree. Stock is rising. We're going to the moon. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in to this episode of Just Another Year Chicago. My name is Nick Roti, along with my co-host, London Beth. We will see you guys next time. Have a good night.